In the world of guitar, you've got your chords and you've got your single note licks. But what about that magic world in between? There's a way to make your riffs richer and your solos pop with added depths. Let me show you a little trick to take your playing to the next level. I'm not sure where I first heard this type of guitar sound. Maybe it was this. Or maybe even this one. But soon afterward, I started noticing it everywhere, from Jimi Hendrix to Cornell Dupree to Mark Knopfler, you name it. The bottom line was that I had to learn how to get that sound. What were those things and how could I use them? I did just that, and I immediately put it into play, and I noticed right off the bat that people noticed in the band that I was playing. Both the musicians, my bandmates, and the audience came up to me afterward and said, "Man, that sounded great what you were doing, those little fills and all that." Now those fills are called double stops, and they're kind of in between chords and scales. Now there's a lot of theory that you can look into, but we're not going to do that today. I just want to show you how I got started and what my thinking was, so let's take a look at it right away. Now when it comes to double stops, there are two that reign supreme. There's the third, like we heard in Brown Eyed Girl, and there's the sixth, like what we heard in Soul Man. We're going to focus on the sixth today. Sixths are my favorite. I love them both, but sixths are my favorite. First, let's take a look at what a sixth is, and then I'll show you a few licks, and then I'll show you how you can use it in a song so you can get to playing with them right away. All right, let's do this quickly, and then let's get on to the real fun stuff. If I take a C, we'll do this in C. Here's a C chord, right? A little triad. And here's my C note on the G string 5th fret. So I can play a C major scale like this. And I can assign numbers to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're back to 1. Well, what if I just take the 1 and the 6th? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And play those two notes simultaneously. That's it. That's a 6th. Okay, and you can define it forwards or backwards. That's going forwards, or you can count backwards. Here's a C right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 1 and my 6th. Now you can use those rules to generate all the sixths for a given key. In this case, we did C. And that's great, but that's not how I did it, and frankly, it's not how I do it today either. I think there's an easier way. Let me show it to you for rock and blues and R&B, that sort of thing. In rock and the blues, the dominant 7th chord, otherwise known as the 7th chord, is a dominant sound, right? It dominates. And it's used in other genres as well. This is a C7. And we found that this right here is a 6th. Now, I didn't know what a 6th interval was at the time, but I knew this was the sound I wanted. You'll note that that is a piece of this dominant chord, of this 7th chord. Okay, so a 6th is also a piece of a chord, in this case a dominant 7th chord. Why care about that? Who cares? Well, here's why. It's because it makes life simpler and you can do cool things with it. Let me show you why and how. Suppose you've got a song which is just the same chord over and over for a long period of time, say in this case a C7. Instead of just playing this, over and over, what's kind of fun to do, and it sounds neat too, is to play from one chord to another form of a C7 and maybe back again. So it's much more interesting. but it sounds kind of cluttered when you're moving all over like that. So here's where I first realized I could use sixths as an idea and how I could use them. So instead of playing this big C7, what if I just played the notes on the D and B strings and played that? And then instead of playing this big C7, I just played the notes again on the D and B strings. And same with this. I just played the notes on the D and B strings. So I have something like this. So you see, it unclutters that wall of sound that those big chords had in it, and it really makes it much clearer. But now, because it's much clearer, you can think of things like, what might be another interesting way for me to get from one chord to the next? And that's where the real fun begins. So we've got this chord and its associated sixth, and this chord and its associated sixth. So the goal is to get from here to here in a way that sounds kind of cool. If we look at it, we've got two different shapes. See this shape right here? This I call a crooked shape because the frets don't line up. Here I'm playing D string second and B string first. But this one is a straight shape. Here I've got D string fifth and B string fifth, same fret. So if I can find a way to get from here to here, and all I'm going to do is play crooked and straight shapes to get there, and I want it to be a cool way. So one way might be, that's the brown-eyed girl way. Up and back, actually. So that's just one way, but I could choose other different types of things. It's all fine. And if I pick the shape that I don't like the sound of, that's fine too. If I didn't like this, I don't have to play it. Sure, there's theory that you can use, but to me, I'd rather use my ears and just figure stuff out, figure out what sounds good to me, and then use that as a lick to get from one place to another. The key takeaway here is that because you know where your start is and what your destination point is, the stuff in between doesn't really matter that much. You can choose what you think sounds cool. It's that simple, really, honestly. The beginning and end are what matter. Okay, here are a few of my favorite licks that you can steal. You can take them and they work great over any sort of static seventh chord. So the first one is one that I already showed you. It's moving from this seventh chord to this C7 chord. And it goes like this. We're going to add a little style though. Now I used the pick that time to leap the strings, but one more time slowly. There it is. And we can do that either way. We can do it forwards or backwards. Okay, so that's one of them. Second lick is moving from this C7 chord to this C7 chord. Here it is, right here. Pretty simple. I told you these were simple. And again, you can do either direction. And now one that I love moving down is a little bit different. It's this one. We're going to move from this C7 chord, which is really just this one, moved up a whole octave, you see. So it's this one, and we're moving toward this. It goes like this. One more time. All right, and that one's going down, but also you hear this little sliding onto the first sixth. And that's another neat effect that you can add in. But beauty of this, the real beauty of it, is you can use it in any song as the chords change. You don't have to think too much. You can just play these moves over the chords as they change. So let's see how it would apply to a blues, say. All right, this is a blues in C. Keeping it simple, there's just three chords, C7, F7, and G7. you'll see how I use these licks to move seamlessly between the chords. Honestly, just mastering these simple things is great fun. But if you want to use it for rock, you got to make it a little bit edgier. And there's nobody who did it better than Mick Taylor or the Rolling Stones. So click on this video because I go in depth showing you how Mick used it to blend sixths with single note soloing and use it in a rock context. So click here. I'll see you in that next video, and I'll see you on down the road.